Hello everybody. Today we'll be finishing journal number 27 again, and we'll be going over the 9th deadliest sin out of 12. And this will be guilt. Now we will discuss in further detail that which is guilt. Earlier we talked about how the Antichrist traps you in the past guilt orientation as a way in which to rob you of the now, or present moment of life. We'll first define guilt. 1. The fact or condition of having committed a legal or moral offense. 2. A feeling of remorse arising from a real or imagined commission of an offense. 3. Guilty conduct. Guilty defined as 1. Deserving of blame for some offense. 2. Convicted of some offense. 3. Involving, pertaining to, or showing guilt. The first thing you must realize is that to feel guilt about some past thought, word, or deed does not always necessarily mean you are guilty of a wrong against your spirit within. The wrong to the spirit within occurs when you assume unworthiness or blame upon self and thus punish self by self-condemning thoughts and actions. You must always ask yourselves, do you feel guilt because someone else has offered it or imposed it upon you? Or have you accepted or allowed them to blame you for some action or occurrence which you know you are really not guilty of, like the police do? Let us give you an example of a response of false guilt, which many of you ones will relate with an inexperience within your modern Western civilizations. Let us say you are a girl child of 11 years old. Up to this age, you have enjoyed relative childhood security, love, and dependence with your mother and father. Then suddenly, you are told by your parents that they no longer love one another and cannot live together and will become divorced. Please understand this carefully, precious ones. In most all cases of separation of parents, the child or children blame themselves. You see, the child often believes that if mommy and daddy can stop loving each other, then they can stop loving me too. We would suggest to you ones that if a couple says they stopped loving one another, they most likely never truly loved. Do you see how confusing this sort of drastic change and separation is to a child? Now, in a hypothetical case, let us continue with the story in which similar circumstances have occurred with many. The mother retains custody of the little girl. The father leaves town and says, for other work challenges and opportunities, the child seldom sees him anymore. He is always so busy. The child's mother must go to work, let us say for the first time since she became married to the child's father. Do you begin to see what this looks and feels like to the little girl? She feels like she has been rejected. She begins to feel unloved and unworthy because she blames herself for her parents' divorce by perhaps not being a good enough little girl. Her mother works and comes home irritable, resentful, and angry at the little girl's father, which only adds to the little girl's soul anguish and feelings of unworthiness. The two people she loved, trusted, and even idolized the most no longer exist for her. She is alone. Do you ones realize that all most of you truly want is to be sincerely always loved, exactly the way you are without conditions? So the little girl begins to punish herself. She begins to seek love and acceptance outside of herself, which she feels she no longer has at home. Throughout her teen years, she walks the path of victim by self-destructive actions and by continuous rejection by others. You see, like so many of you, even now in this adult state, she only wants to be loved. But because she feels unworthy of the true love she pines for, she continues to sabotage herself by choosing relationships which dishonor her as she dishonors herself. She may become angry toward male humans because she is angry with her father for leaving her. She may not only punish herself, but also seek to punish all men who represent her father. Eventually, her heart is so hardened she feels nothing, no joy, no love, no caring. It is her against the world, and she feels alone and bitter. Now God, our Father, is most distressed when ones of his become lost in negative response to his/her manifested experience. He in his mercy will send help to the child or young woman to help her recognize that there are those who do love her and care for her. He will send her signs of his love so that she may forgive and heal the disease within self. Will she recognize the love of our Father presented to her? It is her choice. For God will never force any. He will, though, wisely choose the ones who will manifest his love for her, which he deems will be most acceptable to her. It will then depend upon her soul integrity how well she will recognize, forgive, and overcome her self-imposed guilt. Many of you ones who now serve faithfully within his service have manifested for yourselves very difficult circumstances in your growing years, in which you had to ultimately understand, forgive, and overcome in order to serve his will as willingly as you do now. Why? Most of you ones have simply asked for difficult testing in order to gain the compassion and understanding of how and why your brethren have been so crippled, deceived, and lost for so long, so that you can relate with circumstances of the deceived, and thereby be most effective in helping them see the light of godly truth within them. Be most grateful for the lessons offered, learned, and overcome, students. You are spiritually much stronger because of them. Now we will discuss past guilt orientation a bit more. If you feel guilty for some past deed, you must determine why the guilt is felt. If you recognize an error against another, then by understanding and learning the lesson, and then self-forgiveness, you will have released guilt. Many of you instead wallow around in the horrible situation and wish only to feel sorry for yourselves, so that you think you are not responsible for the error, or sin really. It's both. Recognize your responsibility, learn the lesson, forgive, and release it. It is done. Just like sins, once it's done in the past, it's there. There's no getting rid of it. But once you're out of error, there's no excuse for it. And you further the transgression against your spirit by reliving and the dastardly deed in your mind and not living your moment now in the fullness. This is punishment of self, and is not of God, but of the Antichrist. Do you see? You walk around saying, I should have. Well, you didn't. And it is over. The next time a similar situation presents itself, and it will, you will know how to best respond with godly integrity, right? Or are you going to do the same thing over again? And that's all for number 9.